I used to believe I knew my wife better than anyone in the world. After 12 years of marriage, I thought I could read her like a book I'd memorized cover to cover. Hira was the kind of person who would stop her car in the rain to help a stranger change a tire. She volunteered at the local shelter every Sunday, brought homemade meals to elderly neighbors, and once spent an entire weekend helping a coworker move apartments even though she barely knew the woman. Everyone loved her. At parties, people gravitated toward her warmth. At family gatherings, relatives sought her advice. Even my own mother sometimes called her first when she needed someone to talk to. Hira had this gift. She could make anyone feel seen, heard, understood. It was one of the things I fell in love with 15 years ago when we met at a community fundraiser. But lately, something had shifted. I noticed it in small ways at first. She became quieter, more distant. Her smiles didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. When I asked if something was wrong, she'd wave it off with explanations about work stress or just being tired. I believed her because I wanted to. Because the alternative, that something fundamental was changing between us, was too frightening to consider. The problems had started about 6 months earlier. We'd been trying to have a baby for 3 years with no success. The fertility treatments, the monthly disappointments, the invasive procedures, it had worn us both down. But it seemed to affect Hira differently. She started pulling away from me, from us. Our conversations became shorter, more perfunctory. The easy intimacy we'd always shared felt strained, forced. Then came the wedding invitation from her childhood friend Mira. A 3-day destination wedding in the mountains, all expenses paid for the bridal party. Hira was a bridesmaid. I was invited too, but I had a crucial work presentation that same weekend, one I'd been preparing for months. We discussed it over dinner one Tuesday evening. "You should go without me," I told her, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "You need this. Some time away, some fun with your friends. When was the last time you did something just for yourself?" She hesitated, her fingers tightening around mine. "Are you sure? I don't want to go without you." "I'm sure," I insisted, meaning it. "Have fun. Dance, celebrate, forget about everything for a few days. God knows we could both use a break." She left on a Thursday morning. I kissed her goodbye at the door, watched her drive away, and felt relieved that maybe this trip would help her find herself again. Maybe the distance would give us both perspective. Maybe she'd come back refreshed, and we could finally have that honest conversation about where we were and where we were going. She did come back different. But not in the way I'd hoped. Sunday evening, I picked her up from the airport. She looked exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed. Too much partying. I joked, grabbing her suitcase. "Something like that," she murmured, not meeting my gaze. The next few days were strange. She was jumpy, distracted. She spent long periods in the bathroom. She flinched when I touched her. On Wednesday evening, I came home from work to find her sitting on our bed, staring at her phone with tears streaming down her face. "What's wrong?" I asked, immediately concerned. "Did something happen? Is everyone okay?" She looked up at me, and in her eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before, pure, unadulterated fear. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. "But I'm so afraid." I sat down beside her, my heart beginning to race. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it together. Just tell me." She took a shaking breath. I think I might have picked up an infection. At the wedding. I've been having symptoms, and I'm scared. I need to see a doctor." The way she said it, the careful phrasing, the downcast eyes, something clicked in my mind. A cold understanding began to spread through my chest. "What kind of infection?" I asked quietly. She couldn't answer. She just cried. I drove her to the clinic the next morning in silence. The kind of heavy, suffocating silence that fills up all the space in a car and makes it hard to breathe. Hira sat in the passenger seat with her hands folded in her lap, staring out the window at nothing. I kept my eyes on the road and my thoughts carefully contained, like holding water in cupped hands. Part of me wanted to demand answers right then. To pull over and make her explain exactly what had happened at that wedding. But another part of me, the part that had loved this woman for 15 years, was terrified of what those answers would be. So I drove, and she sat, and neither of us spoke. The clinic was one of those discreet places with frosted windows and a small sign. Inside, the waiting room was nearly empty. A young couple sat in the corner, both looking miserable. An older man read a magazine without turning the pages. We checked in with the receptionist, who handed Hira a clipboard with forms. I watched her fill them out, her hand trembling slightly as she wrote. There was a section about sexual history, about number of partners. She paused there, pen hovering over the paper, then wrote something quickly and moved on. I felt sick. "I'll be right here," I told her when the nurse called her name. She nodded and disappeared through a door marked examination rooms. I sat in that waiting room for 45 minutes, watching a morning talk show on the mounted television with the sound off. My mind raced through possibilities, through scenarios, through timelines. 3 days at a wedding. She'd called me twice, once when she arrived, once the night of the ceremony. Brief calls, surface-level conversations. What had happened in all those other hours? When she finally emerged, her face was blotchy and her eyes swollen. She wouldn't look at me. The nurse handed her several papers and a prescription, speaking in low, professional tones about treatment protocols and follow-up appointments. In the car, I finally asked, "Do you want to tell me what the doctor said?" Her voice was barely audible. "It's chlamydia. She prescribed antibiotics. You need to get tested too. And I have to contact anyone anyone who might be affected." There it was. The confirmation hanging in the air between us like smoke. "How did this happen, Hira?" I asked, keeping my voice steady even though everything inside me was shaking. She started sobbing. Great, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't even know how to explain it. I wasn't myself. I was so confused, so lost. There was this man, he was the bride's cousin. We talked at the reception. I'd had too much to drink. Everything felt so dark, and he was kind, and I just wanted to feel something other than empty for 5 minutes. I pulled the car over into a parking lot. I couldn't drive anymore. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles had turned white. "You slept with someone else," I said flatly. It didn't mean anything. It was one night. One terrible mistake that I've regretted every single second since it happened. She reached for my arm, but I pulled away. "Was he married?" I asked, though I wasn't sure why that detail mattered in the tsunami of betrayal washing over me. She nodded miserably. "His wife was there too. She's one of Mira's cousins. They have 2 kids. 2 kids. A family. Just like what we'd been trying to build. Did anyone else know?" "I don't think so. We were discreet. I left early the next morning. I thought I could just bury it, pretend it never happened, and we could move forward. But the STD made that impossible," I finished for her. She flinched at my tone. "I deserve your anger. I deserve whatever you're feeling. I've destroyed everything, and I know that. But please believe me when I say I love you. I've always loved you. This wasn't about you not being enough. This was about me being broken." I sat there, staring at the dashboard, trying to process the fact that my entire life had just changed in the space of a parking lot confession. The woman I thought I knew, the kind, empathetic, loyal woman everyone admired, had gotten drunk and slept with a stranger at a wedding. Had brought home an STD. Had been willing to hide it all if her body hadn't betrayed her secret. "What's his name?" I asked. "Why do you?" "What is his name, Hira?" She closed her eyes. Rahul Kapoor." I started the car again and pulled back onto the road. "Where are we going?" she asked nervously. "Home," I said. "I need time to think. And you need to make some phone calls." "Phone calls?" "The doctor said you need to contact anyone who might be affected. That includes Rahul. He needs to know so he can get treated. Which means his wife needs to know too." Hira's face went pale. "I can't. I can't tell his wife. It will destroy their marriage. I almost laughed at the irony. As opposed to what's happening to ours? He made a choice, just like you did. Choices have consequences. We drove the rest of the way in silence. That evening, I did something that surprised even myself. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I didn't break down. Instead, I went to the spare bedroom and sat in the old armchair we'd bought at an estate sale years ago. Hira had reupholstered it herself, spending weeks carefully replacing the worn fabric with a beautiful navy blue material she'd found at a vintage shop. I stared at that chair, at the evidence of her patience and care, and tried to reconcile it with what I now knew about her. How could the same person who spent months restoring a chair be capable of destroying a marriage in one night? Hira appeared in the doorway after about an hour. Her face was swollen from crying, and she was clutching her phone. I called him, she said quietly. Rahul. I told him he needs to get tested. He panicked. Started saying we need to keep this quiet, that his wife can't find out. He said he'd handle it discreetly. And you agreed to that? I asked, my voice flat. I don't know what I agreed to. I just wanted the conversation to end. She slid down the door frame until she was sitting on the floor. What are we going to do? We. I repeated. I'm not sure there's a we anymore, Hira. She flinched as if I'd struck her. Please don't say that. I know I've hurt you. I know I've broken your trust. But we can get through this. We can go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Can you unmake the choice you made? I asked, looking directly at her. Can you take back that night? No, she whispered. Then nothing will ever be right again. Not in the same way. I stood up and walked past her into the hallway. I needed air, space, distance from the suffocating weight of this new reality. But as I reached for my jacket, something stopped me. A thought crystallized in my mind with perfect, cold clarity. Rahul was going to hide this from his wife. He was going to get treated quietly and sweep it all under the rug. And his wife, what was her name? I'd have to find out, would continue living in a lie. Just as I would have been living in a lie if Hira's body hadn't forced the truth into the open. Did he say his wife's name? I asked. Hira looked up at me, confused. What? Rahul's wife. What's her name? I think it's Priya. Why? Because she deserves to know the truth, I said simply. Just like I deserved to know it. Hira's eyes widened with panic. No. Please. No. You can't tell her. It will destroy their family. They have children. He should have thought about that before he slept with you, I said, my voice harder than I intended. And you should have thought about our future before you made your choice. This isn't about justice, she pleaded. This is about revenge. I shook my head. No. Revenge would be posting about this on social media. Revenge would be calling your parents, your friends, your co-workers. Revenge would be making sure everyone knows what you did. I paused, letting that sink in. This is about honesty. This is about not allowing someone else to live in the same ignorance I was living in. This is about being the kind of person who does the right thing even when it's hard. The kind of person I used to be, Hira said bitterly. Yes, I agreed. The kind of person you used to be. Over the next few days, I scheduled my own STD screening. The waiting period for results was torture, not because I was worried about my health, but because I was stuck in this limbo between my old life and whatever came next. Hira moved into the guest room without my asking. We existed in the same house like ghosts haunting different rooms. She tried to talk to me several times. Tried to explain, to apologize, to plan for our future. But I couldn't engage. Every time I looked at her, I saw a stranger wearing my wife's face. The test results came back negative. I'd been spared the physical consequences of her betrayal, at least. But the emotional damage was already complete. Hira's results from her follow-up appointment confirmed the infection was clearing with treatment. Good news, the doctor said. These things happen, the doctor said. Just be more careful in the future, the doctor said. As if this was something that just happened. As if it was an accident, like spilling wine on a carpet. I printed out both sets of test results, hers showing the positive diagnosis and current treatment, mine showing I'd tested negative. I put them in a folder and sat at the kitchen table, staring at them. What are you doing? Hira asked, finding me there late one evening. Making a decision, I replied. It took me 3 days to find Priya Kapoor on social media. She had the kind of profile that told a story, family photos with 2 smiling kids, pictures of home-cooked meals, posts about school events and weekend hikes. She looked happy. She looked like she had no idea her husband had destroyed their marriage at a wedding 3 weeks ago. I spent hours staring at her profile picture, a professional shot of her and Rahul with their children, everyone in matching white shirts against a beach sunset. The perfect family portrait. The perfect lie. Hira caught me looking at the photo on my laptop one evening. You're really going to do this, she said, her voice hollow. It wasn't a question. She has a right to know, I replied without looking up. And what about our right to privacy? What about trying to heal privately? I finally turned to face her. You gave up our privacy when you made a public choice. This didn't happen in a vacuum, Hira. It happened at a wedding with 200 people around. You're just lucky no one else saw. So you're going to punish me by destroying another family? I'm not destroying anything, I said firmly. Rahul did that himself. Just like you did to us. I'm just making sure his wife has the same information I have. What she does with it is her choice. Hira's face crumpled. I thought you loved me. I thought we could work through this. I did love you, I said, the past tense hanging heavy in the air. I loved you so much that I believed you were incapable of hurting me this way. But love isn't enough to overcome betrayal. And forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. I found Priya's email address through her professional website. She was a graphic designer who worked from home. I crafted a message carefully, trying to find words that would convey the truth without being cruel. But in the end, I couldn't send it. An email felt cowardly, insufficient. This news would change her life. It deserved to be delivered with the weight it carried. Through Hira's contacts, I found out that Meera was hosting a small post-wedding gathering the following weekend, a casual backyard barbecue for close family and friends. Both Hira and I were invited. Both Rahul and Priya would be there. We're going to this barbecue, I told Hira that Thursday evening. Her face went pale. No. Absolutely not. I can't face them. You don't have a choice. If you don't come, I'll go alone and tell everyone there exactly what happened. If you come, we can do this with some discretion. Some discretion, she repeated incredulously. You're planning to expose us in front of everyone. Not everyone, I corrected. Just the people who need to know. Priya deserves to hear this from the people who betrayed her, not from rumors or whispers. Hira sank onto the couch, her head in her hands. This is cruel. What's cruel is letting her continue living in ignorance while her husband hides his infection and his infidelity. What's cruel is protecting people who made selfish choices at the expense of innocent partners. The day of the barbecue arrived too quickly and too slowly at the same time. Hira barely spoke during the car ride to Meera's house. She'd lost weight in the past few weeks, and her clothes hung loosely on her frame. Part of me felt guilty for what I was about to do. But a larger part, the part that had been gutted by betrayal, felt certain this was right. Meera's backyard was filled with the same people who'd been at the wedding. I spotted Rahul immediately, standing by the grill with a beer in his hand, laughing at something someone had said. He looked relaxed, carefree. When he saw us arrive, his face froze for just a moment before he forced a smile. Priya was helping set up the dessert table, arranging plates and napkins with the same care I'd seen in her social media photos. She waved at Hira cheerfully, oblivious. I waited until most people had arrived and the party had found its rhythm. Then I approached Priya while she was alone, refilling the lemonade pitcher. Priya, I said softly, I'm Hira's husband. I don't think we've officially met. She turned with a warm smile. Oh, of course. I remember you from the wedding photos. It's nice to finally meet you properly. Hira talks about you all the time. The irony nearly broke me. I need to speak with you about something important. Could you come inside for a moment? And we should probably get Rahul too. Her smile faltered slightly. Is everything okay? No, I said honestly. It's not. We gathered in Mira's living room. Priya, Rahul, Hira, and me. Mira had asked if everything was all right, but I'd assured her this was a private matter. Through the windows, I could see the party continuing in the backyard, people laughing and eating, completely unaware of the scene unfolding inside. Rahul stood by the fireplace, his jaw clenched tight. Hira sat on the edge of the couch, looking like she might be sick. Priya stood in the center of the room, her confusion shifting toward anxiety as she looked between all of us. Someone please tell me what's going on, she said, her voice uncertain. I pulled the folder from my jacket pocket, the one containing the medical results I'd been carrying for days. My hands were surprisingly steady as I held it out. 3 weeks ago, at the wedding, your husband and my wife had sex, I said, my voice calm and clear. My wife contracted chlamydia from the encounter. I thought you deserved to know. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the sounds from the backyard seemed to fade away. Priya's face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, dawning horror. That can't be. It's true, Hira whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. Rahul finally spoke, his voice sharp with panic. This is insane. This is a private medical issue that doesn't concern you. You can't just. I can, I interrupted. And I am. Because Priya deserves to know the truth about who she's married to. Just like I deserved to know. I opened the folder and held out the papers to Priya. These are the test results. My wife's positive diagnosis and treatment confirmation. My own negative results. The timeline matches the wedding weekend. You can verify everything with medical professionals if you want. Priya took the papers with trembling hands. She stared at them for a long moment, her eyes scanning the medical terminology, the dates, the damning evidence of her husband's betrayal. When she looked up at Rahul, her face had transformed from confused to something harder, colder. Is this true? She asked him. Rahul's composure cracked. Priya, please, it was one mistake. I was drunk, I wasn't thinking clearly. It meant nothing. It meant nothing. Priya's voice rose, sharp with fury. You risked my health, our children's well-being, our entire family for something that meant nothing. I would have handled it discreetly, Rahul insisted, shooting a venomous look at me. He's the one making this a public spectacle. 4 people in a living room is hardly public, I said. But if you prefer, we can go back outside and I can share these results with everyone at the party. Would that be more to your liking? You're a bastard, Rahul snarled. I'm honest, I corrected. There's a difference. Priya read through the medical documents again, her hands shaking so badly the papers rustled. Then she looked at Hira, and I saw something shift in her expression, not just anger, but a deep, profound sadness. You helped me with my makeup the morning of the wedding, Priya said softly. We talked about our families. About how hard marriage can be sometimes, but how worth it is to work through things. And all the while, you were planning to sleep with my husband. No, Hira sobbed. It wasn't like that. I wasn't planning anything. It just happened, and I've regretted it every second since. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt anyone. But you did, Priya said, her voice breaking. You both did. She turned to Rahul, and the look in her eyes would have frozen fire. Get out. Go to your brother's house or a hotel, I don't care. But you cannot come home tonight. And if you're not getting tested and treated immediately, you're never coming home. Priya, please. Get out. Each word was sharp as broken glass. Rahul looked around the room, perhaps hoping for an ally, but found none. He left without another word, the front door slamming behind him hard enough to rattle the picture frames on the walls. Priya stood there, holding the medical documents, tears now streaming down her face. "I have to go," she said to no one in particular. "I have to. I need to figure out what to tell my children." She walked past all of us toward the door, then paused and turned back to look at me. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I know this couldn't have been easy for you either. But thank you for telling me. I deserved to know." After she left, Hira and I were alone in the living room. Outside, someone had turned on music, and laughter drifted through the windows. The party continued, oblivious. "Are you satisfied?" Hira asked bitterly. "No," I said honestly. "I'm not satisfied. I'm devastated. But I'm also certain I did the right thing." "What happens now? To us?" I looked at my wife, at the woman I'd loved for 15 years, who'd helped me through my father's death, who'd laughed at my terrible jokes and held me through countless nightmares. And I saw clearly that she was gone. The person standing in front of me wore her face but wasn't her anymore. Maybe she'd never been who I thought she was. "I'll file for divorce next week," I said quietly. "I'll make sure it's fair. You can have the house. I never liked it much anyway. We'll split everything else down the middle." Just like that. Her voice was hollow. 15 years, and you're just done. "Not just like that," I corrected. "I've been dying inside for weeks, Hira. I've replayed that wedding weekend 1,000 times, imagining you with him. I've looked at you and seen a stranger. I've tried to find a way to forgive you, to rebuild what we had. But I can't. And forcing myself to try would destroy me completely." She approached me then, reaching for my hand. I let her take it, felt the familiar warmth of her palm against mine one last time. "I still love you," she said, her voice breaking. "I know I've ruined everything, but I still love you so much." "I know," I said, and meant it. "I believe that you do. But love isn't enough to heal this. Some betrayals are too deep." 2 months later, I stood in the doorway of our now empty house. Hira had moved back in. I'd found an apartment across town. The divorce papers were signed. The furniture had been divided. All that remained were ghosts and memories. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I opened it to find a message from Priya. "I wanted you to know, I'm divorcing him too. It wasn't just the cheating. When I confronted him later, I found out this wasn't his first time. Thank you for giving me the truth. I'm moving back to my parents' city with the kids for a fresh start. I hope you're finding peace too." I typed back, "Thank you for letting me know. I hope you and your children build a beautiful new life." As I drove away from the house for the last time, my phone rang. It was Hira. "Please," she said when I answered. "Can we meet? Can we talk about trying again? I've started therapy. I'm working on understanding why I did what I did. I want to prove I can be the person you deserved all along." I pulled over to the side of the road and closed my eyes, letting her words wash over me. Part of me, the part that still remembered how much I'd loved her, wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe people could change, that betrayal could be overcome, that love could conquer all. But the larger part, the part that had learned painful truths about trust and dignity and self-respect, knew better. "I'll always wish you well, Hira," I said gently. "I hope you find healing. I hope you become the person you want to be. But I can't be part of that journey. I can't live in pain anymore, hoping it will eventually stop hurting. I have to choose myself now. I have to choose peace." "So this is really goodbye," she whispered. "Yes," I said. "This is really goodbye." After I hung up, I sat in my car for a long time, watching the sun set through the windshield. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple, then dark. And somewhere in that transition from day to night, I felt something shift inside me. Not healing, it was too soon for that. But the first stirring of possibility. The first breath of a future I could build on my own terms. I started the car and drove toward my new apartment, toward whatever came next. Behind me, the house grew smaller in the rearview mirror until it disappeared completely. Some endings aren't happy, but they're still necessary. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do, for yourself and for others, is simply to tell the truth and walk away.